Faculty of Computer Science and Information Technology at the University of Malaysia in Sarawak. He's the Deputy Director of the Centre of Excellence for Rural Informatics, UNIMAS, which oversees the internationally acknowledged Bridging the Digital Divide project, eBarrio, and the federal funded replication of the eBarrio model at 5 sites nationally. eBarrio is dealing with problems or the issues of bridging the digital divide in remote areas of Borneo. Alvin also heads the Sarawak Language Technology Research Group at SaLT, which aims to preserve and maintain 63 ethnic languages of Sarawak. That's an awful lot. So we're really looking forward to find out how you're doing this. Welcome, Alvin.
Okay, thanks. Even though it's 63 languages, I'm hoping that some of you can help to actually work on some of these languages. I guess a story behind how I started on this. This more or less started last year. My 6-year-old girl, which is a precocious little thing, she's very much been using English because I'm Hokkien, which is the dialect of China. It's a Chinese dialect. My wife's Cantonese, which is also a Chinese dialect, and she doesn't speak Hokkien and I don't speak Cantonese. So what do? We use English. So I was a bit worried because my daughter was speaking very English-sized Hokkien. So so I decided to say, okay, let's try to get her to talk a bit Hokkien. And then this is what I said, Bernice is there. So Bernice, let's try talking Hokkien. And then you know what she said to me? She said, Daddy, I don't want to speak Hokkien, I'm English. When I heard that, well, I don't think there's any wrong with English. Maybe the Irish don't agree. But basically, I mean, what that struck me was, hey, you know, it's a 6-year-old girl, and then she doesn't want to speak her native tongue because, you know, she's so used to speaking English. And I was relating this to a friend of mine who's an IBAN, which is actually an ethnic group in Sarawak. And he says, I'm facing the same thing. After I went to SaLT in the UK for his PhD, he came back. He has 4 daughters. None of them speak IBAN. So after I started talking to people, and I realized, hey, you know, we really need to do something about this because once, you know, the language dies, then you talk about the culture disappearing. And Sarawak, I'm very happy today. You know, it's a very friendly place. People there are very relaxed, friendly, and you know, it's a very good environment. And you know, partly I think it's because of the culture that's kind of exists. You know, you lose language, you lose the culture, and who knows what else you might lose. So that's where SaLT started. SaLT, we decided to add a bit of flavor to people's lives. So SaLT, maybe not too much salt because that's not very healthy. This is actually a fern in Sarawak, so more or less it's actually epitomizes Sarawak itself. So this is our campus. There's a promo at the end for you to come to the conference next year. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll give a bit outline about the languages in Sarawak. And in terms of like the maintenance and revitalization, what we can actually do from a holistic approach, not only looking at just technology in itself. Some of the projects that we actually got, the ones that we do are the ones that we actually got some sort of funding available. And looking at also development of simple language tools which we want to actually get on and then get out into the public. And lastly, some of the current findings of the initial year that we're actually working on. Now, where is Sarawak? Aaron is somewhere there. So I did the slow thing for the dramatic effect. Malaysia is actually that West Malaysia and East Malaysia, which is on the island of Borneo. And this is Sarawak. It's actually about a third the size of Malaysia. Okay, and this is Sabah, our neighbor. Kalimantan, which is the south of Borneo. And Kuching is where I'm from. The project that we are doing with the eBarrio project of rural ICTs and all that is actually located there. So if you are free later on, I've got a 4-minute video which you can actually see. Okay, Sarawak. According to the Sarawak Tourism Board, I've asked politicians, I've asked various people, they give me a number between 27 and 28. Nobody seems to be sure. So I decided to stick with something official. There's 27 ethnic groups. Each of these ethnic groups has its own language, its own culture. But some of these ethnic groups have a number of languages. We tend to call them dialects because, you know, it's a bit similar and all that, but basically the Dewan Bahasa dan Pustaka, which is the custodian of the languages, they said it's actually different languages because most of them are, say for example, the language is spoken in a particular area. And then even you are saying, I'm Iban, I'm from this area A, okay, and another Iban from area B, I might not be able to communicate with each other because it's two different languages. And just to give you an idea, okay, so I've actually gotten the list of languages from Ethnologue. And these are the numbers. Okay, so you have 1 to 100 speakers, and they say there's actually 4 languages, but I think what is quite shocking is that there's 76% languages with 500,000 or less speakers. In total, about 84%. The e-Barrio, the Barrio project, the Clubbit, they are working with, there's only about 1,000 of them around. There are 5,000 in the world, but I can safely say probably only about 600 to 700 of them speak Clubbit. Why is this happening? Mainly because if you look at, say for example, like in Sarawak, 50% of the people live in rural areas. And when we talk about rural areas, we're talking about areas which does not have electricity. It's very difficult, it's very remote. We're talking about 3 to 4 hours to travel to those locations. Now, a lot of them are interested in finding jobs because jobs are in the town, so they move to town. And when they move to town, what's the first thing that goes? It's actually the language. Because when you're in the rural areas, everybody speaks, say for example, Clubbit. But then when you move to towns, what happens? You are bombarded, NTV, English. Basically, everybody is required to learn Bahasa Malaysia, which is the national language. And the national language, basically you have to learn Malay as well as English. If you don't pass any of these subjects, you don't carry on into your education. So there's actually a lot of emphasis on those 2 languages. So what happens is when those families move up to the urban areas, one of the first things, as I said, that disappears is also is the language. The other one is exogamy. There are a lot of intermarriages in Sarawak. So say for example, like Iban, there is a Clubbit. So depending on, I guess, who's the one with, the better, who's more proficient in language, the kids may pick up one of this language. I have a student who's Chinese, she's married to a Clubbit, and then the kids speak neither Chinese or Clubbit, the kids speaking English. So you're getting all these situations coming up, and it is getting to be a big problem because even the ethnic groups, they have associations. These are some of the issues that they're thinking, hey, we better do something about it because the language is going to disappear. So what we're hoping to do is, of course, content is important, but basically this is a more like technology type approach. And I mean, the ultimate goal is looking at the preservation of culture. And what we're looking at is like, okay, let's see how the things that we can actually do. Say for example, getting like applications. Maybe say for example, getting more of this stuff. Say for more of these documents in IBAN online. And then the kids who are actually browsing the web say, hey, or maybe getting Facebook in IBAN. I think that might be a good idea to actually get things going. Supporting technologies, a lot of times we take for granted that everybody has access to technology, everybody has access to the internet. Now, the other flip side of it also is because when you're talking about people in the rural areas, chances are they may be illiterate. They do not know how to read. What more to say, not being able to use the computers. Okay, so there are supporting technologies and things that exist. Importantly, of course, you're looking at the stakeholders, and I think who was this morning, yesterday was talking about, like the government being, I think in Ireland, it says that, okay, you got to get a job or something like that, you need to learn Gaelic or something, or you need to be able to converse in Gaelic. And this is how some of the government agencies or the government can actually play a role in this. On the other side, of course, people like us who are very much in technology, who are involved in research and so on and so forth, which we can actually help to contribute towards the preservation of culture. So because we've got technology for all, knowledge for all, so I'll throw in my technology for all as well. And my 4 is actually 4 A's. Awareness, access, adoption, and adaptation. If you take, for example, like when I talk about bringing ICTs to the rural communities, you need to bring up, you need to get the awareness, say, there's this technology available, and these are the things that you can do. Then say, hey, these things we can use for, emailing, talking to my family who is actually outside of Barrio. Providing access, not only in terms of like the telecommunications infrastructure, the hardware, software, but also computer literacy. You need to actually provide them with the training that exists. Adoption. once all this technology exists, and if they are aware of the technology being able to actually be a solution to their needs, then hey, let's use it. And currently in Barrio, what they're doing is they're using the current technologies. Most of them speak English. Because there's actually quite a strong, influence of the colonists. Barrio is actually at the border of Indonesia and Sarawak. And in the 1960s, there was a confrontation. This confrontation was Indonesia wanted to take over Sarawak because they said, well, Sarawak is actually part of Kalimantan. They wanted the land. So the British and I think the Australians, there were actually quite a few of them. They were posted along the border, and a lot of them were actually located in those rural areas. And Barrio was one of those locations. And there was quite a strong influence of those people over there, because I think the rural folks realized that, hey, there's a big wide world out there. And because of this so-called confrontation, that they were exposed to a lot of the world outside. So adoption is like adoption of the technology in itself. And I guess the ultimate goal is, I think Maslow's self-actualization at the highest level, whereby, that the technologies are being adapted, not only adopted by the users, but they are adapted, meaning they themselves make actually change. So in some ways, you can think of it as some sort of like a maturity model, whereby, the ultimate goal is that the users are able to actually achieve that. And key, I think it's in some ways kind of refreshing to me that, a lot of you have realized, hey, it's not just about technology. Ultimately, it's the users, the eyeballs, so to speak, that actually is looking at the content. So all our work with eBarrio and with the technologies that we're evolving are very much community-centered. Okay, so with SaLT, what we are ultimately doing is, hey, we need to actually build up the resources. When we talk about corpus, corpora, a few million words. So what I'm working on is what we call pico corpus or nano corpus, because it's really, really small. We're having a lot of problems trying to actually collect the resources. Okay, so the idea of it is that we were getting funding and then trying to actually build the corpora. And then after that, then we are actually able to do all the research in computational linguistics, and I'll give you some examples of that. And simple things like word processes that we can actually indeed localized. Okay, language technology. I think the key thing here is the computationally tractable form. The way that I usually explain is, if you have say for example a dictionary, you take a picture of it. You can't actually process that particular picture unless you try to do some image processing, do OCR, capture the text. Then you can actually search the text in itself. Same thing with speech. I'm talking to you, this thing's recording. But ultimately, that speech needs to actually go through some sort of speech recognition software, convert to text, and then that text can be actually processed. Okay? So the idea of it is ultimately that we can actually use it in multiple forms. And this is in some ways a model that we actually use. You have the input, which is ultimately the corpus. What we hope to do is, in the end, it's a machine translation and all that. But before the applications can exist, you need all those simple things, like the taggers, the senders, speakers, the parsers, the morphological analyzers. And we do need all these specialists. This is just to give you a quick look at some of the languages that we're working in, and where some of our final year project students are actually looking. And you find IBAN. Why IBAN now? Luckily, IBAN is a language that's spoken by about 200,000 to 300,000 people in Sarawak. And one of the beauty of it is, IBAN is in the national curriculum. Now, historically, it seems that in the 1960s, that IBAN was actually taught in teachers and training college and all that. So when Malaysia was formed, IBAN was actually one of the languages. So you can actually study IBAN until the 3rd form, or you can do it now to the 5th form. Meaning you said that you can actually do an exam, so equivalent to O levels. So IBAN is very good in that sense because the curriculum is there, the writing system is there. The writing system is there is because they've got a very strong politician who's the Deputy Chief Minister. And he says that, okay, there are I think about 4 or 5 versions of IBAN, then use mine. So it worked because all IBAN now is actually based on that now, but they still keep track on all the other versions of IBAN. Now, compare this to another language, Bidayu. They've also got 5 dialects now. They've got 5 members of parliament. And each of them are equally strong. And they said, no, I am not going to allow your language. How about, let's say, 50-50? they've been talking about 20, 30 years, they still haven't decided. So for that one, I told my researchers quietly that okay, we just use one of them. Then we have some sort of mapping. We say, okay, we're actually using your particular language. But you can actually see that a lot of the work we're actually concentrating on this because it's like a start, trying to get some sort of success with smaller type projects. We're looking some of Kalabit, Kayan, Melanau, Sarawak Malay. Now you might think, okay, Malay, supposedly the national language spoken by 24 million people, okay, maybe 20 plus million. Now, in each state, there is usually a version of Malay. It is so different that somebody who is actually fluent in Malay doesn't understand. To give you an example, you might call a dog anjing in Malay. In the Sarawak Malay, called asu. Or kame, kita, you, me, kita, kamu. It's very much different. There are a lot of the West Malaysians that come over to Sarawak, they're thinking, hey, you're speaking a totally different language. And we have actually got some work that's actually there as well. Okay, we've got some on the Bidayun, Sadobuka, and of course on English. Okay, and this is, I guess, the rock map, but I can safely say we are a bit behind schedule. Now, these are the different cobras that we're hoping to do. We've got some on Iban and on Melanau. These are the processes that we hope to be able to do for all of these processes for Iban. So for process of Iban, you have a morphological analyzer. For Melanau, you need to have another one so for the cross segment. Okay? These are some of the people that were actually involved. You notice most of them are from Malaysian universities, Multimedia University, University of Technology Malaysia, and University of Malaya. Okay, and one of the reasons when we actually started this was some work had already been done for English, Malay, Malay, English. Okay, but none for the minority languages. So basically, it tapped into the sort of expertise of the various people. The universities involved, the Malaysian universities, LRC, which is our localization work, as well as University of Waikato, which is actually looking at, again, this is what they call 6 degrees of freedom, 6 degrees of separation. The guy that I'm working with from the General Applied Linguistics in Waikato, New Zealand, he's married to a Bidayun. He's a Scotsman. Yeah, so he actually came to Sarawak, and then he was quite interested in trying to in some ways help to preserve the language because I think his daughters also have some problems speaking Bidayun. The NGOs that already talked about, non-government organizations, very crucial because they are the ones that are looking after the languages and they are the ones that are very, very patriotic or very passionate about the language. One of the ones that we're working with, the Tun Juga Foundation, I'll talk a bit more later. Okay. And these are the stuff we have from computer science and IT, and you'll find that a lot of the projects that we have, unfortunately, it's a means to an end. We have to get funding, and because there is actually funding for more computer science IT projects as opposed to social science, so a lot of this is basically sitting on, I guess you can sort of consider the veneer of computer science and IT, but ultimately it's actually building corporas and then getting the other people from social scientists, so forth, to be involved. We've got people from the cognitive science as well as people from the Center of Language Studies. Roughly at the moment, we've got about 35 people who are actually working on this. Most of the undergraduates are so-called coerced into taking the projects. Because, first thing they say is, what's this Iban? Then you tell them, oh, it's this language. Will I be able to get a job with it? So, sometimes it's a hard sell, but generally what we found is that people are getting more interested into this, and I'll have it's a silver lining at the end of this. Okay, so one of the things that we had to do was to build. One of the things that we had to do is actually to build what we call all the corpus, and we needed a way to actually manage. So we were to manage the corpora. So one of the things that we did was we collaborated with USM, and they had already this tool that we actually helped to develop further. And basically what they do is like you have the text thrown into the system, and then after it's processing, you can actually have the original content, the processed content, which is XML tag, the editable content, where you can actually do the editing and all that, and you can actually stay into the various versions. Okay. There's some sort of processing that can help to actually detect things like, for example, like the category, the topics, okay? And we actually included all those things like, the taggers, the sentence speakers, tokenizers, and so on into this. So it's actually an environment whereby we're hoping to be able to actually put in all the corpus. Okay, so this is the IBAN corpus development now. Quite a lot of questions that was actually banded around. English documents into minority languages. Yes, a lot of that I think has been done, which is English to, say for example, some languages other than English. Now, in this case, the reason why we're doing this is so that, especially the younger generation, they are able to actually access documents which are in their own language. And it's like, hey, it's quite cool. Or maybe like say, hey, cool, Facebook is in IBAN. Okay? So the documents and all that, what we hope to do is be able to actually provide access to them in the local language. You might think, okay, most of them have problems maybe speaking English. It's on the contrary. I'll give you an example. When I was doing the project, then I was talking to our headmaster in the rural area. So this was in Barrio. And we were looking at building a tool in Klabit for the students in Klabit. So the first thing the principal said, if it's possible, can you not install this in the lab? They said, why? Because it's good for the preservation of language. Oh, I'm trying to get them to pass their English. So you get them to learn. It's very likely they're going to use that and not use English. So then later on, we were talking to some people and realized that it's not the rural areas that's actually having the problem. It's the urban areas, because those are the ones they have gone to the cities and they are the ones that are actually losing the language. So basically, I guess you can consider the match, or should I say the target audience actually shifted. So the other thing is, which was raised was, we got all this content on the internet, but you must realize that all this content are actually not from Sarawak. So we have, say for example, the Ibans, Bidars, Malanas and all that, they've been living on the land for a few hundred years, maybe even, probably about 600-700 years, and they do know a lot of things about the land. Say for example, growing hill paddy, what's the weather to use, what type of fertilizers, or what type of seeds, so on and so forth. All this are actually traditional knowledge that's actually all in their heads. Now the only thing is, all these societies are oral societies. They do not write things down. So if you want to actually get knowledge from them, you have to probably interview them, talk to them, and record what they're saying. And then this is what we call the realms of the traditional knowledge. How are you going to get that to text in itself? Then you have to do things like the speech recognition, so on and so forth. So one of the things that we're looking at now is, say for example, if you have got an IBAN document, okay, how are you going to get it into English? So here we have, say for example, a source, which is an IBAN. Okay, word-to-word translation in the pivot language. Equivalent Malay sentence of IBAN sentence. Using EBNT, which is actually available through another University Science Malaysia, which is actually a collaborator. They get in English. So this more or less exists already. This is what we are actually hoping to aim for with all the technologies that we're going to use. Okay. Now, BM is used as a pivot language because what we found is that there are a number of languages which are very similar to Malay, but they are grammatically that is. But the words and all that are a bit different, and some of it we are thinking that now they may be able to do some sort of word-to-word translation. Now, if IBAN can go through to Bahasa Melayu, when Bahasa Melayu is the pivot language, Melanau to be done the same as well, and so on and so forth. So what we're trying to do is now to see the similarities between, say, for example, IBAN and Bahasa Melayu, and it seems to be potentially promising. That could be a way to go about it. This is one of the work that we're actually looking on multimodal integration. We talked about, I think probably it's easier if I bring. The idea of it is, say for example, you have a document, okay, or you're drawing, say for example, a map to somebody. Say for example, that this hole is actually leading to, so this hole, you draw the hole, is leading to another corridor, and then you lead up to a courtyard. So as you can see, I'm talking. I'm also drawing. So one of the problems in computer science is how do you integrate what I say with what is drawn? And what has previously been used is things like time lapse. As soon as I say something within like 3 or 4 seconds, what I draw is actually the same object. But unfortunately, that's not quite true. So one of the research that one of the students have been doing was using English, of course, looking at how things are related to each other in terms of spatial relations that this room is next to. So next to is actually a relationship that's actually used. So there's the sketch, okay, you can actually draw up the model. So you get a sketch representation. From the speech, you actually do some sort of interpretation. Here we're cheating a bit. we are talking about speech is that speech is transcribed. There's no speech recognition software which is actually does a very, very good job. So you got the speech that's interpreted and is created to representation, and that model is actually integrated. So the idea of it is saying, okay, we've got this model. What if, say, somebody was speaking in Malana or someone speaking in Iban? How would they be able to just use this model with little changes? So you can think of it as something like an internationalization process. You try to come up with a generic core, and then you're actually doing localization, which is providing the localized content. So one of the things is like to see, okay, let's look at the language-dependent components, maybe some lexicon, some grammatical rules. So this particular project is just starting. Another one that we're looking at, the other goal is to actually identify the speech patterns to develop some sort of predictive model for speech recognition. What we're targeting is Malays speaking in English. The reason why we're doing this is partly because a lot of the tools out there, basically for English, when I was in the US and I was trying to change the flight details, and the first thing the system asked me was, can you tell me the reference number? So I think A for Apple, W for Washington. So I spent, I think 15 minutes talking to the machine, and then it always came up with something wrong. So in the end, I spoke to a person, which actually got everything sorted. So that got me to realize, hey, a lot of the systems out there, if you're wanting to use them, English is very much existing already, but they can't recognize my Malaysian accent. So we thought that, okay, let's try this. Malays, there are about 60% Malays in Malaysia, and let's get them to actually say, for example, use English, and then to be able to actually recognize the speech patterns. And the idea of it is we're using a Wizard of Oz technique. So this is actually the interface that the user sees. So text is actually typed up for them to see, and then what you're trying to do is actually capture what they say. So say, for example, the person goes out and says, okay, I'd like to book a room. Then somebody will type here and says, okay, what room would you like to book? Then, as you can see, when the person is actually talking, you're actually capturing the speech. And what we're hoping to do is identify speech pattern, the speech acts, and then hopefully they will be used to build a predictive model. So this is work that we're doing with the analytics science group. We've done some work already with the microfilm languages online, and that was actually to look at the framework, to get things started. And one of the things that we're bending on is like a Wikipedia approach, not like what you say, crowdsourcing. Learn new word, this conference, crowdsourcing. So Wikipedia approach, there are Vidayus all over the world. So what we're hoping maybe to tap into some of them to actually contribute to the list, probably a word list, okay, of similar terms, okay. Viral Digital Library, which we actually had done what? The Kalabits, as I mentioned, are oral society, and the women, what they do is to pass the knowledge down to the women in the next generation. They use songs, okay, and these songs are relatively long, about 10-15 minutes. Now, with the onset of the women being able to read and write, most of them didn't want to learn the songs. And when we went to do the recordings, it was quite sad that quite a lot of the ladies had forgotten the songs. So you can immediately see, the knowledge is actually slowly disappearing already. And what this one was basically just a proof of concept whereby you can actually use digital libraries to actually help to record. We actually did the transcription and translation. We had the audio and video. Yeah, the only thing was, even though it's only 9 songs, it took us 2 years to complete. And the reason was, again, there weren't enough translators around, and the one that we actually got help from, she took about 6 months actually to do a couple of songs. But I couldn't fault her because she was quite busy with other things, and this was actually time. I'll be up online at 2 or 3 a.m. and then she's up there, so I'm getting this done. The SaLT Malay, this was a vocabulary book that was written by W.S. Debug. Okay, I need to do 1,026 words of SaLT Malay. Now this, you might think, okay, SaLT Malay at that time probably very similar. When we actually showed this to the library, because the library were the ones that were interested in getting this online. So when they were actually looking at this, they had a good laugh because a lot of the words that we used then had very much changed now. Okay, and so this is just one of the side projects that we're trying to actually get out. ABWord is an open source software, open source word processor. About 1,000 plus, basically 1,000 strings that need to be translated. So we're actually getting some of my staff who are IBAN, and they are doing the translation. Okay, and basically the challenges. Yeah, there are a lot of in IBAN. There are a lot of like recordings, but there's nobody to transcribe them. There's a lot of textbook out there, but there's not many people who are actually free to actually get them digitized or OCR and all that. Now, IBAN is the lucky language. The other languages have problems because there are no writing systems. You remember that the fielding 5 Bidayus who can't decide which writing systems? Grammar rules and all that. All these are not existent because even I'm sad to say that in my university, a lot of the people in the language studies, they are social linguists. And they've realized that, hey, we really need to get linguists there to actually help you look at the languages. And human resource, now you might think, okay, IBAN, there shouldn't be too much of a difference, but we actually so-called tested out on a number of translators. These translators are usually retired teachers who have been teaching IBAN. We have done some, I think what we wanted to do was for the EBMT to work from USM, they required us to get about 1,400 sentences in English to be translated to IBAN. Unfortunately, not all translators are created equal. Some translators did excellent work, but then there are some which had what they call very tainted form or contaminated form of IBAN. So we had a pool of say about 5. Then now we're reduced to about 2, whereby we can actually totally rely on. But there's good news. Community awareness. The associations are very passionate about it. They are all for it. Just 2 weeks ago when I visited Tunjuka Foundation, they were very excited that the fact that we actually still continue with the work, that we actually showed we actually updated them on the progress. And unfortunately, it's only those who are what I call advanced in age that were interested in preserving the languages. The younger generation, yeah, there was actually a big problem. I visited the foundation, and there were people who were weaving this what we call pakunggu, which is actually a cloth that's actually made. It's actually handmade. And you got like about 5 or 6 of these women who were actually weaving. And then one of my colleagues who said, IBAN, the mom was working there, so I brought her along. And they said, hey, this thing is actually done excellent. You're preserving your culture, you're preserving the handicrafts and all that. Then the mother said, yeah, but my daughter doesn't want to learn. And she was standing right next to me. And that's one of the issues that's actually been bandied along a lot as well. Because a lot of the younger generation, in some ways, are not interested. And I think one of the key problems is that you're trying to actually get them passionate about their own culture and getting them involved. Upper management support, yeah, we've been very lucky. My university and the various foundations and all that, they have been basically, when we ask them about the projects, we talk about the projects, they basically open their doors and say, welcome to our resources. Anything that you actually provide is actually a shared type resourcing. So it was very good that a lot of them were very supportive. And I think the key thing was, when I started the project, I was a bit worried that there wouldn't be anybody who's really interested, especially those from the ethnic groups. And I'm happy to note that some of my colleagues who are IBANs, who are Lanaus, I'll show you. This is Prof. Suji from the University of Tokyo. He visited us. So yes, me, Gary, and Lai, we are Chinese. Okay. But Edwin is an IBAN. Beatrice, she's IBAN. The father's IBAN married to the father's a Chinese married to an IBAN. And you have these two, Su and Koja. They're both Lanaus. Okay. And Jen and Sarah, they are IBANs. So just by starting with this project, we actually found that, hey, there were people who were not students, but also the staff who were actually quite interested in getting this. And to answer your question on the one language, right? So there are 63 languages, so it might take me a lifetime maybe to look on one language, but I think a few of these younger ones will actually continue with the work. Okay, and basic concluding remarks. Definitely there's a decreasing number of speakers, languages in Sarawak. What we hope to do is with the SaLT group that we're actually using a holistic approach, looking at technology but also involving the community, the NGOs. The SaLT project, with the number of projects we're actually looking at, mainly on computational linguistics and research. Challenges, community involvement, especially the younger generation, data collection, analysis. These are some of the challenges we're looking at. Silver linings, we've got committed NGOs and possible researchers, and who knows, maybe looking at some sort of like internationalization, localization approach, because if you're thinking about localization for Europe, which has many different languages, just scale it down. Sarawak with many languages, and it's actually a more or less similar thing. So hopefully some some of the ideas from you can actually help. And yeah, I'm all open for assistance, anybody. Yeah, I think this is following Laurie in a sense. You are the experts. A lot of the things that we're doing are not new. But the thing is, a lot of you actually have gone through the process, and I very much welcome your experience and your suggestions for that. Okay, so got some funding. This is actually to appease my Deputy Vice Chancellor who has been telling me, you have never acknowledged or okay, I've acknowledged, so if we ask you, you say yes. I'm actually have been organizing, or it's ongoing, this International Cyberspace Conference on Economics. There is actually a special discussion on maintenance and preservation of languages. You go to this particular forum, it's free registration, so you go to this forum, you can actually look in, there are a number of papers that you can actually download, and you can read the papers and then do discussion and all that. And we've got about 300 registrants all over the world. And now there might be some papers that may be of interest to you because the papers come from places in America, from Europe, even one from Cuba. So I don't think you actually get Cuba and US together in any conference like this. So. Yeah, so it's ongoing, it's online, so don't ask me for yourself because I've got a lot of emails saying, why is your conference so long? 1 month? Okay, and our flagship. Now, this is our 6th conference on IT in Asia. The theme, Enabling Technologies for Knowledge-Driven Society, People-Powered Systems. Okay. We've got tracks on computational linguistics, HCI, software engineering. There are a number of other which we will send out to Carl and Reinhard to actually go out to the localization community. This is for real. It's in Come to Kuching, 6 to 9 of July. 6 is the workshop, 8 to 9 is actually the papers that have been presented. We've done it such that it coincides with the Rainforest World Music Festival, whereby they get groups of musicians from all over the world come to this particular location with the Living Museum, and then a lot of them do like workshops and so on and so forth. So they've got usually about 10 to 20,000 people attending those for this particular festival. So for Sarawak, where I come from, it's called Land of the Hornbills. Okay? And we in some ways promote 3 things: culture, adventure, nature. Culture, okay, this is people ladies with the handicrafts. Adventure, actually that's me going up the river in one of the projects in the. Don't worry, the river's not crocodile infested. Go, if you want, we can arrange. Okay, and this is Barrio where you can actually do like side trip. This is a lovely place, very cool, very relaxing. Okay, so culture, adventure, nature. We've got I think about 11 national parks out there. So if you're interested, give me a line. My email is actually in the book. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alvin, for a very lovely presentation.
It was the dessert. I think it was
There was something to something there are no crocodiles, but I think they're headhunters. Huh?
Maybe of the humankind, if I know the media, but headhunters, the headhunting practice was abolished, I think, about 1890s or 1900s, so don't worry. I still got my head.
Does anybody have any questions or comments? I think this is an excellent example of what you can do, what really has to be done in other parts of the world that are not kind of part of our northern hemisphere to preserve languages, to use language technologies and localization approaches. There's much more that Alvin has not mentioned. Many more activities going on. Really, what I would like to see is we have the people in the Ibaria project that have developed websites and information, and there's actually some agritourism going on.
Yeah.
And you could see how localization and sharing of culture can actually lead to development. So that's what I wanted to say before you started, is that there's really a lot of things that you can learn from local and rural communities. And it's not just that we bring them our knowledge and our technologies. So there's a lot of stuff that you can learn from them, especially these days of environmental concerns and things like that. So
I think everybody's like looking 4 o'clock. I understand traffic jam was horrendous yesterday.